had a very familiar relationship with Krishna. You're my friend, you're my cousin. We're like basically equal in age. And you're telling me you're the supreme person. So then, at one point, Arjuna turns to Krishna and he says, prove to me that you're God. I need some proof. I can't follow your instruction as an absolute instruction unless I have some proof that you're God. So, could you show me your universal form? Because I've heard that God pervades this entire universe in what's called the Bharat Rupa, or the universal form. Could you show that to me so that I could get some proof? So Krishna said, all right, so be it, if that's what you want to see. All right, here we go. And he puts on this whole show of the universal form. Arjuna is taken aback by the universal form. And he says, who are you? And what is your mission? And then he asks Krishna, I can't tolerate looking at this form anymore. It's so overwhelming. Could you go back to your two-armed form that I'm accustomed to seeing? And Krishna goes back to his two-armed form. And then he tells Arjuna, I have some news for you. So we're going to look at a couple of verses here in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna that, guess what? There's no way that you can actually know me. Seemingly, no way. So he says, Naham badarna tapasa nadanena achejiya shakya evam gado drashtum drishtavan asimam yata. This form that you're seeing, here I am standing right in front of you. People always say, I'll believe God if I see God. Can you show me God? You're arguing with them. Yes, there's God. No, there's not God. Yes, there is God. No, there's not God. Yes, there is God. Okay, prove it to me. Well, how am I going to prove it to you? Show it to me. Show me God. If I can see God, then I'll believe. Right? It's a very common challenge. Show me God, and then I'll believe. So Krishna says, here I am. Look at me. I'm standing right before you in my original form as Krishna. But you can't understand me. You're looking right at me, but you're looking right through me. You don't even understand me. And you know why? Because you can't know God in this world through these methods that people think you can know God. So Krishna says, Arjuna, you can't know me by studying the Vedas or the scriptures. You can't know God by studying the scriptures. You can't know God by performing great penances and, austerities. Like the yogis in the mountains are doing such great austerity. You can't know God. You can't know God by giving in charity, all these pious acts, giving charity, being a good person, getting some brownie points. You can't even know God, Krishna says, by worship. So much for all the, ritualistic worship that's going on in the world. But you can't know me. Arjuna said, what? But I want to know you. And so then Krishna says, but there's good news. Here's the good news in the next verse, 1154. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya aham evam vidorjuna yatum drashtum tatatmena praveshum chaparantapa. Arjuna, see me standing before you? You can actually understand me, not just see me with your eyes. That's one thing. But you can actually understand me. How? By executing what's called ananya bhakti, or pure, unalloyed, unmixed, devotional service. You can know me and love me by serving me. Ananya Bhakti. Unmotivated, unmixed, unalloyed, pure devotional service. Oh, well, that's awfully nice to know. That solves our problem. We don't have to take to this path of this austerity or this and that. Just pure devotional service. So now the next question might be, well, what is devotional service? Does it mean like, many people think Manava Seva is Madhava Seva, that you go out and serve people, that whatever you do to the lowest of people, you have done unto me. You know, common philosophy, if you want to call it philosophy. So what is devotional service? Are we supposed to just make up, I'm going to serve God today and do something in the name of serving God? So another text, Srimad Bhagavatam, explains what devotional service is, right? But close to the beginning there. Tasmad ekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam pati shotavya kirtitavyas cha dhyaya pujas chanityada. That devotional service means 4 things. To hear about, to glorify, to remember or meditate on, and to worship. This meaning not ritualistic worship, but worship with love. To hear about, worship, remember, and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to hear about and glorify and remember and worship the Supreme Person. But there's a caveat. How is that supposed to be done? How is that supposed to be done? So one of the caveats is nityada, constantly. Not 1 hour a week, 5 minutes a day. Nityada, constantly. And the other caveat, akena manasa, with single-pointed, undeviated attention. The attention's not, we were chanting 3-4 minutes of japa just previously. And if you analyze, what was the mind doing while I was chanting japa? Was it just paying attention, single-pointedly paying attention to the holy name? Or was it out in left field, doing all sorts of stuff? Right? It's very difficult to control the mind. But here, the Srimad Bhagavatam says, one can know God if they hear about, glorify, remember, and worship Him constantly with single-pointed, undisturbed attention. In Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna tells Arjuna in 7.1 that Maya Sakta Mana, that you have to practice this devotional service with your mind attached to me. Not just go through the motions with the mind out in left field, right? So now the next point we have to confront is a problem that we have. And what is that? That our mind is not attached to Krishna. It's not. It's evidenced by the fact that when we tried to chant some japa, I was thinking of everything else but the sound of the holy name on the beads. Our mind's not attached to Krishna. Rather, it's distracted. The mind's distracted. We're not attracted to Krishna, we're disattracted. We're disattracted from Krishna because we're attracted to something else. Right? You don't pay attention to this person that's talking to you over here because your attention is over here. So you're disattracted from one thing because you're attracted to another thing. So Sanat Kumar in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam to Prithu Maharaj says, this is a big problem. He says, there's no greater obstacle to one's real self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more attractive than one's own self-realization. Self-realization and God-realization go hand in hand. Just like you have a hand, but at 3 o'clock in the morning you can't see it because it's pitch black, right? It's dark. But when you realize the sun, when the sun rises and you see the sun, you also see your hand. So self-realization and God-realization go hand in hand. You can't realize the self unless you realize God. You can't realize God unless you realize the self simultaneously. So Sanat Kumar tells Prithu Maharaj that the greatest, our real self-interest is to know God. Our real self-interest is self-realization. And there's no greater obstacle to that self-interest other than thinking other subject matters to be more attractive than our own self-realization. That means the intelligence has not been convinced that the best thing I can do to love myself is to pursue my real self-interest, which is self-realization. I've identified my self-interest to be something else. How foolish is that? Right? So, what is it that's distracting us then? Desires in the heart. Desires and attachments in the heart are causing us to think that those things are more attractive. They put themselves up, put on a show. Look how attractive I am. Look, I'm a material desire. Look how attractive I am. I'm a material attachment. Look how attractive I am. Don't pay attention to Krishna. Right? So those are pollutants in the heart that are getting in the way. So we might not have a mind that's yet attached to Krishna. We don't. But Srimad Bhagavatam gives us one very piece of good news. And there it said that Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyanta Sohya Vajani Vidinoti Saritsatam. If you just have a desire, you don't have an attachment yet, but if you just have a desire to hear about Krishna, like you all came here today, how many came here because somebody held a gun to your head and told you must come? Right? Or your mother called you on the phone and said, you better go, otherwise I'm going to be mad at you. Right? You came because there's some little desire in the heart. It doesn't mean, oh, I'm so attached to Krishna. I'm in love with Krishna. No, you have some desire to hear. Therefore, you've come. So this verse from Bhagavatam says, if you just have a desire to hear, then God in your heart as the super soul, Paramatma, super soul in the heart, he will cleanse away all those obstacles that are called material desires and material attachments. He will cleanse, if you just come and hear, he will cleanse away all the pollutants in the heart that are in the way. How wonderful is that? We don't even have to do any work. He does the work. Cleaning the heart is really hard work. You can't just use soap and water, you know. He does the work. Why? Because he's pleased that you just sat and heard. So now the next problem we're going to have is that we're not actually got such a strong desire to hear. Evidenced by the fact that not more than 20 people came here out of, how many people live in San Antonio, approximately, area? 1 million?
2 million.
2 million. Wow, we've got 20 people here, so what's that percentage? I don't know. Too much math to do right now. But the point is, we don't have a whole lot of desire to hear. Our intelligence isn't convinced that we should hear. But In his introduction, or actually in his preface to Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada writes a beautiful preface to his Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's one or two sentences there that are extremely beautiful. And he says, if one just gives this Srimad Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam is that set of books that you see on the altar behind the pictures of the gurus. It's an 18-volume set, and this is the first volume sitting on the table here. It's a big book. Srila Prabhupada says in his preface that if one simply gives a careful read to this Srimad Bhagavatam, one will know God perfectly well. So much so that one will be able to defend themselves from the onslaught of atheists. And over and above this, the reader will be able to convince others to accept God as a concrete principle. Now, is that big time advertising or what? Anybody here ever wrote a preface to a book? Okay, you're an author, so you put a little preface in your book. So you want to say something like, oh yeah, if you read this book, you're going to become a better person. Or if you read this book, we hope that you learn something about history. Or if you read this book, maybe it'll help you become wealthy. Here's Srila Prabhupada saying, if you read this book, Srimad Bhagavatam, you will know God perfectly well. What kind of a promise is that? So our intelligence has to be convinced enough to say, okay, I'm going to read that book. And that's actually what happened to me. When I read those two sentences in the preface of the first volume of Bhagavatam, I got out my checkbook and ordered the whole set. Joined the Hare Krishna movement. Those two sentences knocked me over because I was like, what? This is what I've been looking for my whole life. Nobody ever told me they were going to teach me how to know God. I can know God. And Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Sakta Manaparta, Yogam Yunjan Manashraya, Samshayam Samagramam, Yatagyasya Tachnu. Just hear, Arjuna. You don't have to do anything. Just hear, okay? Hear from me how you can know me in full, free from all doubts. And what is it that he's going to tell Arjuna? What is it that Arjuna is going to hear that causes him to know Krishna in full, free from all doubts? Krishna is going to tell him how to execute pure devotional service, Ananya Bhakti. Okay, now we encounter another problem. We've heard that all you have to do is serve Krishna with a mind attached to him, not mechanically. You serve your children with love, right? You don't hire a robot. Mom feeds the kid, dresses the kid, talks to the kid, plays games with the kids, drives the kid around. Well, the way things are going, in a few years, you can hire robots to do all of that. Mom's job will become extinct, right? But no, it won't. Because robots can't love. They can go through the same motions that your arms and legs go through, cook the food, push the buttons, dress the kid, drive him to school. But they can't love the child. So Krishna says like that to Arjuna, to serve me with love, not just mechanically like a robot. So Srimad Bhagavatam told us to, and Krishna also said, to serve Krishna, hear and glorify and remember and worship Krishna with a mind attached to him. And then we were honest. We raised our hand and said, yes, I'm guilty of not having my mind attached to Krishna in love. I barely even think of him. So then we said, okay, well, if your mind's not attached to Krishna, here's plan B. Plan B is, well, just have a desire to hear about him, even though your mind's not really attached. Just have a desire to hear, because your intellect understands it's good to hear about Krishna. And then we admitted we don't really have a desire even to hear, actually. When it's time for class, I run away. And when it's time for prasadam, I'm in there, first in line. I don't actually have a desire to hear. Woe is me. So now what? Well, again, Srimad Bhagavatam to the rescue. Another really beautiful verse found at 1.2.16 in Bhagavatam. Shushusho Shadadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruji Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevanat. You don't have a desire to hear? We have a solution for that. You want to hear what it is? Anybody here would anybody like to know the solution to this ailment called no desire to hear? Okay, here's the medicine, here's the solution. You don't have a desire to hear about Krishna, this is what you do. You find a pure devotee of Krishna, one who is completely free of all vice. And you render service to that devotee. And you happen to hear from that devotee, because when you serve somebody, there's always some talk going back and forth. So you simply approach a pure devotee of the Lord and hear from them and serve them. And by serving them, the Bhagavatam says, great service is done. That's the topmost service. And what is the result of serving a pure devotee who's completely free? What does that mean? Completely free from all vice. It means they are not victimized by the 6 enemies of the mind, which are listed as kama, lust, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, illusion, madha, madness, and matsarya, envy. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the same thing. Tadvidi pranipatina pariprajnena sevaya upatekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Approach a person who is tattvadarshi, one who has seen the truth. And why have they seen the truth? Because nirmatsaranam satam vedyam. Who can understand the truth but one whose heart is free of envy? Envy of the Lord and envy of others. Such a person, they've seen the truth, and therefore they can upadeshyanti. They can initiate you into the transcendental science. How many people here would like to be initiated into the transcendental science? You know, we all take entrance exams into med school or graduate school or law school, but we want entrance into being accepted as a student of the transcendental science. So how do you get accepted as a student to the transcendental science? You approach a pure devotee, one who is free of all vice, nirmatsaranam. They're free of envy. They are tattvadarshi. They have experienced the truth, the absolute truth. And therefore, upadekshanti, they can initiate you into the transcendental science. And why do they accept you as a student? Was it because you came and put on a song and a dance and offered a big donation? No, it's because you approached in a humble mood, ask relevant questions, and render some service. So like this, we're going back to the Bhagavatam now that says, Shushusho Shadadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi, that by serving such a person, affinity for hearing the messages of Godhead arise in the heart. We can't serve Krishna with love, with mind attached to him, because our mind is distracted by material desires and material attachments. We become cleansed of material desires and material attachments if we have a desire to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and the holy name. But we don't have a desire to hear because we have other desires that trump it, eclipse it. We just somehow don't have that determination to hear. So then, serve the pure devotee, and Vasudeva Kata Ruchi, affinity for hearing the messages of Godhead, will manifest in the heart. And what does serving the pure devotee do? Like, what's the mechanism, if you will? So a couple of verses later, the Bhagavatam says, Nashta Praeshu Abhajeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. That if one regularly, which means daily, serves the book Bhagavat or the person Bhagavat, then all the inauspicious things in the heart that are obstructing our God-given natural ability and propensity and right to see God face to face, all those obstructions in the heart will be destroyed practically to nil, and then loving devotional service will be established in the heart as an irrevocable fact. And how does that come? How does that happen, that the heart becomes cleansed and devotional service takes its seat there as an irrevocable fact? By Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. By constant, regular, daily hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and service to the pure devotee. And in his purport to that verse, Prabhupada says, human reason fails to understand. It's beyond logic. Don't come here and try to apply your logic. Prabhupada says, human reason fails to understand how by serving the book Bhagavat or the person Bhagavat, one gains gradual promotion on the path of devotion. It's a transcendental science which surpasses all logic. So, this then is the only way to know God. The only way to know God is to begin from step number 1 and proceed to step number 2 and step number 3. And that step number 1 is service to the pure devotee. And by serving that pure devotee, one will gain affinity for hearing the messages of Godhead. And what happens if you have just a little affinity? Even just as a discipline. Okay, I don't have affinity, for example, to go to my math class today. I really don't want to go to school. Have you ever said that to your father or mother? Have you ever said that to your father or mother? I don't want to go to school today. I bet you never said that, right? I bet every day you're like, I want to go to school.
I'm a professor, right? And I say that every day.
Right. Even the professors don't want to go to school. So the kid will say, I don't want to go to school today. I don't want to go to math class. And the parents and the teachers will say, just sit here and do it as a matter of discipline. Even if you don't have the desire, just do it. So even we just get that much desire to hear, just out of duty or discipline. Srila Prabhupada has given us a wonderful promise in his preface to Srimad Bhagavatam. For those of you who do not own the Srimad Bhagavatam, you really, really, really want to add this to your life. It'll be the best investment you've ever made for like a measly $300, which is nothing compared to what people spend. Maybe they spend $300 on a set of clothes, for holidays or something. Because Prabhupada says there in the preface that simply by giving this book a careful read, one will know God. So we'll stop there and see if there's any discussion. Maybe Dayananda Prabhu can add some corrections or embellishments. Forgive me for speaking in front of you.
I was thinking, you were talking about the definition of bhakti. I was thinking that there's another verse that defines bhakti too, that Sarva Bhakti and Tattva Shikena Desha Sevna Bhakti Vichita. That's in
Do you want to tell them the translation, basically?
Sarva Upadhi. I always like that because Upadhi means a designation. Like it has to do with these bodily designations. And people are always talking about, especially now, it's very common to talk about racism and gender identification and these kinds of things. And it means Upadhi means all those designations that we have in connection with the body, like black, white, Russian, American, etc. And Sarva Upadhi, all the Upadhis, Vinir Muktam, meaning free from those, liberated from those designations. Tat Paratrena Nirmalam means being pure in the sense of being, as Danakeli Mataji mentioned, pure, freed from our attachments and our material desires. So that's the beauty, that we serve the Lord of the senses with our senses. So that's the beauty in the sense of we have senses, we're using them for everything in this world, collecting all these things and just being absorbed in the world. And yet this process of bhakti is amazing because we can use those same senses that are magnetized to this world to serve Krishna. Bhakti Ruchite means, the last line means, is called bhakti, or Uchite is often used to mean the definition of it.
Any questions on that? That's a very wonderful verse because how many people here have senses? Anybody here have senses? I don't see a whole lot of hands raised. So you're qualified. You might say.
Does nonsense count as sense?
Yes, that's one of the senses too.
That's why I didn't raise my hand.
It's a lack of common sense, but it's still a sense. So we often say, well, I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to do devotional service to God. I'm like, last one on the entrance list there. But this verse that Dayananda Prabhu quoted is very encouraging because it says, if you've got senses, you're qualified. How about that? All you got to do is take your senses and contact them to Krishna. Connect them to Krishna. And actually, this is Lord Chaitanya's formula, his ammunition. He came with the holy name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. And he glorifies the holy name, and the first thing he says about it is Chaito Darpana Marjanam. Chaito, our consciousness. Darpana Marjanam. The Darpana means like a mirror. He compares consciousness to a mirror. What image is in a mirror? What's your name? Yeah, what's your name?
Shanti.
Shanti.
Shanti?
Shanti.
Shanti, peaceful. What image does a mirror have in it?
If you look at it, it has the image of yourself.
Okay.
But if you don't look at it, it has whatever it's reflecting.
Uh-huh. But what image does the mirror have itself? Because you can't look at a mirror without anything in front of it, right? So a mirror does not have its own image. It only reflects images. Whatever, you put something pretty in front of it, you've got a pretty picture. You put something ugly in front of it, you've got an ugly picture, right? So our consciousness is like that. The Chaita, our consciousness, is compared to a darpana, a mirror. Whatever's put in front of it, that's what it reflects. That's what it is. Marjana means to cleanse. So Lord Chaitanya says, we've put for zillions of lifetimes, we've put stuff in our consciousness. We've heard things, we've seen things, smelled things, tasted things, touched things, thought of things, etc. We've got all these impressions that are like images put in front of the mirror of the consciousness, and the consciousness reflects it back. So we think our consciousness is these upadis that Dayananda Prabhu mentioned. I'm black or white, or I'm bisexual, or I'm transsexual, or I'm homosexual, or heterosexual, or male or female, or dog or human or cockroach or whatever. Those are just reflections. The mirror is not that. Those are just the things you're putting in front of the mirror. So Lord Chaitanya's process is stop putting those things in front of the mirror. Well, how do you do that? You've got to put something in front of the mirror. Unless you want to just put a void there. We're not Buddhists. So this is his formula. Put Krishna in front of the mirror. Take the holy name of Krishna, because the holy name of Krishna is Krishna. So put Krishna in the mirror. Here, stuff Krishna in your ear as the holy name. Stuff Krishna into your eye as the beautiful, form of the Lord. Put Krishna in your tongue by tasting prasadam. Put Krishna in your nose by smelling the flowers and incense offered to Krishna. Put Krishna on your touch by touching the deity of Krishna or those things in relation to Krishna. And so this is Lord Chaitanya's movement. Move out of your homes and your temples, go out into the public and put Krishna in their face, as they say. Put it in their face. Just put Krishna in their face. And that's what we did the other night. We went on Harinam Sankirtan, chanting Hare Krishna mantra, and people were responding. Why? To put Krishna in their face. Because the more you put Krishna in front of the mirror, the Chaita mirror, not the glass mirror, okay, Shanti? Not talking about the glass mirror, but we're talking about the consciousness mirror in your heart. The more you put Krishna in front of the mirror, the more you reflect Krishna. And the more you put Krishna in front of the mirror, Chaito Darpa Marjanam, he cleanses. Remember we said, Shringatam Sakata Krishna, Punya Shavana Kirtana, Hridyantasto Yabhajani, Vidunoti Saritsatam. That the more you put Krishna in your ear and in your eyes, the more he cleanses the Chaita, the mirror of the heart. So that one day we have no more upadis. So if you have senses, and it looks like you all do, you're qualified for this process. Figure out how to put Krishna in your eye. Get yourself some beautiful posters of Krishna and his devotees on your walls. Put Krishna in your ear by chanting Hare Krishna, buying, CDs or whatever media it is today, to hear about Krishna or to hear the holy name, the japa, the kirtan. Put Krishna on your tongue by chanting and by eating prasad, etc., etc. Use your senses in the service of the Lord. And in that way, the heart will only reflect Krishna. It will not reflect all these other things which simply are against our own self-interest. Thank you for bringing up that beautiful verse. Anything else to add? Any other embellishments and corrections?
No, I think you had already done it perfectly.
Anybody else have something to add or comment? Okay.
I think you just covered it.
Gopal Prabhu?
So Mataji, in conclusion, you said that if one has to develop a taste for hearing the glories of the Lord, one should find a perfect person, a person who is free from vices. So where can one find such a person?
I actually went to Walmart the other day and their shelf was empty. One cannot travel to the Himalayas and expect to find. One cannot, how does one find a pure devotee? One has to be in the mood of a disciple, because opposites attract. When there's actual need in the heart, when there's this, sincere, deep pain in the heart that I need to serve a pure devotee, then Krishna will send such a person to us, because opposites attract. So the negative attracts the positive, but a neutral does not attract the positive. Have you all heard this expression, law of attraction? How many people here have heard this? Hare Krishna. Welcome. How many people have heard this phrase, law of attraction? Right? The law of attraction, it says that what you are like meditating on and desiring, or you just somehow conscious of, it'll come to you. So we also have our law of attraction. And it's the perfect law of attraction. You know why? Because Krishna is, what does Krishna mean? All attractive. So if we desire to connect with Krishna, because he's all attractive, and we desire to serve his pure devotees so that we can gain real Vasudeva Kata Ruchi, then he'll make that arrangement. So nobody can tell you, oh, Gopal Prabhu, this person over here, see that guy over there, that's the pure devotee. See, he's got his little rubber stamp on, and go serve him. Your heart has to resonate. Like a tuning fork, there's a resonance there. So we cannot, what's the word, like advertise or what have you, put on the shelf, this is the person that you're supposed to follow, but we would encourage devotees to at least read Prabhupada's books and see if you don't find him to be a pure devotee that you can serve, the Sankirtan movement. Our heart has to be like a field. It cannot grow a plant. Shanti, have you ever tried growing a plant like outdoors? Have you ever had the experience where you plant a seed and it just doesn't come up? You never had that experience?
I have.
Oh, you have, yeah.
But
So why? The seed was, seemingly good. Maybe even the rain was good. There's something wrong with the soil. You might have planted it in infertile soil. So we have to make our heart is like the field that has to be tilled so that it can accept the seed, the bhakti lata bij, and then it can germinate, and then we can water it, and then it can grow. So our work is this cleansing of the heart, tilling of the heart, and that is the Shrimvatam Swakata point, to hear and chant, even without a taste, to do it out of discipline. And by doing so, under the direction of, for example, Srila Prabhupada in his books, then we will gain that proper ruchi. So our complaint should not be, oh, there's no pure devotees to serve. Where are they? Our complaint should be, I'm not qualified to serve a pure devotee. I'm not in the mood of service. I'm too proud or whatever, Find somebody who's more advanced than you. Even you might not think they're the pure devotee. At least somebody more advanced than you. There's got to be somebody in the world who's more advanced than you. And start to serve them and take it step by step. Okay, anything else? Thank you for your kind attention. Grantaraj Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.